Welcome to Tracy Aaron Talks, where functional medicine meets personal development. You want to be living your best life, but the overwhelming amount of health information out there is confusing, and the way you think about yourself is keeping you stuck. You know you are meant for more. As a women's health specialist, my aim is to simplify and equip you with the tools you need to be beautifully balanced from the inside out. Welcome back to Tracy Aaron Talks, where today I have a special guest, a personal friend of mine, Shalin. I'm really excited to dive into her work. She is a dedicated functional medicine practitioner. She specializes in empowering women who've struggled with weight loss through countless diets. If you follow her on Instagram, which I highly recommend you do, you'll see all the testimonials that she posts daily about people that she has helped transformed their bodies, and it's very exciting. So with a focus on uncovering and reversing underlying root causes, she deals with things such as mold toxicity, gut issues, hormonal imbalances, and even Lyme disease. Shalin uses advanced functional lab testing and holistic strategies to create personalized wellness plans. There is nothing cookie cutter about her. So her mission is to help clients achieve sustainable weight loss and reclaim their health, guiding them on a transformative journey towards lasting vitality. Welcome, Shalin.
Hello, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you today. We met at a Cellcore conference earlier this year, and then we found ourselves on the same island in the Mediterranean in June and had an amazing week together. And I just love every moment that we get to share together.
Absolutely. And you're coming to Miami in just 2 weeks, and we're going to have another fun time together. So I'm very excited.
And do you know, every morning we post a similar story on our Instagram pages. Yours is beautiful on South Beach with the waves behind you and dolphins and the beautiful sunrise. Mine is just like maple leaves on the ground and trees. And it's a little bit more forested here in Tennessee, but I cannot wait to walk with you on South Beach in
Yeah.
about 2 weeks from today.
And it's perfect weather at the moment. And every morning it's a new spectacle, right? It never gets boring. Every morning the nature shows you, okay, something new, new colors, new animals. So it's amazing. I love it.
I love it too. I love it. I'm very much looking forward to walking with you. All right. So tell me, how did you get into functional medicine? Did you have a personal story that brought you to functional medicine, like a health journey that you struggled with and finally found answers? Or what would you like to share with us?
Yes, absolutely. It happened through a personal story. I had no background at all in functional medicine, holistic health, anything. I was actually working in journalism, and I moved to Miami, and I always was able in all my life to direct my body with diet and exercise, right? Of course, when you go on vacation, you gain, but then you come back, you do the right things, and the weight falls off again. So it's never been a problem for me. So I moved to Miami, and the apartment above me had some water damage. So I didn't know anything about mold back then. Maintenance came, cleaned it with bleach. It looked clean. Nothing was visible anymore. Nothing smelled. And after I gained 44 pounds in 6 weeks. And I was just like, at the beginning, this is how we women are wired, right? You're trying to look, what did I do wrong? Like, am I eating more? What am I doing? Then you restrict calories. I become obsessive, measuring anything because I couldn't get it off anymore. Tracking my food, working out more, doing the boot camps, going to really, really excessive things, I would say. I followed the bulletproof diet, the keto diet. Bulletproof diet, for someone who doesn't know it, it's basically you're only drinking bulletproof coffee. And my weight got off on like 500, 600 calories. And I was just like, this is not right. But then also other symptoms creeped on board, right? Depression, anxiety, fatigue. At one point, I couldn't go out of bed anymore because I was just so tired. And really, one day, remember I was with my ex-partner back then sitting at a restaurant, and it was like for a special occasion. And he just talked to me, and I had such brain fog and fatigue, I just couldn't answer because I was just too wiped out. And this was really like where it hit me. And I was like, this is not how I want to live. And that's when I did all the research and I started to go to doctors. And I basically told them, look, I'm measuring my food. I'm really only just eating 800 to 1,000 calories, which is way under eating, right? I'm exercising and I'm gaining all this weight. It just doesn't stop. And they basically just told me, a few told me like, this is just normal part of aging. And by the way, I was in my early 20s.
So I'm not normal.
Another guy told me like, stop eating candy and drinking alcohol secretly. Like, I'm not doing this. And I just guess basically gaslit, right? Your blood work comes back normal, which we can later touch on why this is basically a meaningless sentence. Then I found the world of functional medicine, found someone there. Also, he neglected the signs and symptoms of mold, which I didn't know back then. He dismissed parasites because the stool test came back negative, but I had all the signs and symptoms of parasites. So all these things that we still hear even with our clients, right, that are happening today in conventional medicine. So I found the world of functional medicine. I found the lab testing and I just tested myself and followed what I've been taught. And within just a few weeks doing this, I found out I had mold, mitochondria, cortisol was through the roof, heavy metals, environmental toxins, a Lyme co-infection called Babesia, because my immune system had been tanked for such a long time. That's what we see very often with mold toxicity. It goes first after the liver, after the mitochondria, and after the immune system. So basically, when your immune system is tanked, the door opens and everything else can manifest, right? And so I had everything. Sometimes when people ask, how can you accumulate all these things? It's just because you don't have a defense mechanism.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just learned it and applied the protocols on myself, shared it on the same time on my social media. And this is just how naturally my business developed. And I quit my own old job and healed myself and people just came to work with me. And that's where we are today.
Isn't it amazing? I feel like all of us who've been through a similar story, we had to become our own advocate before we found any answers.
Mhm.
Like we tried all the professionals, we tried all the white coats, we tried even the alternative doctors and didn't find answers. It wasn't until I think we take matters into our own hands and we realize nobody's going to do this for us.
Yeah. And I feel like it almost has to be like this, right? That we are approachable, that we understand the health participant. I don't know if someone who has never dealt with weight loss assistant and a person comes to them and says, I'm not eating unwell. Like if there is not this thought in the head, like I'm not so sure if you maybe are like snacking here and there or whatever. Like you really have to go through your own struggles to really understand the client, the health participants. These things are really valid, right? You cannot just teach them or learn them from a book.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like mold is one of those insidious things that a lot of people have a hard time believing is actually a health threat.
Hmm.
Um, Even if people see it, it's almost like there is a cognitive dissonance around the idea that just a little bit of that could make me feel this bad. And sometimes you don't even need to see the presence of it.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't get to find it. It's like lying on a test. I always tell my clients, okay, if it comes back negative, it doesn't mean you don't have it. But if it comes back positive, we're pretty certain you do. It's like you don't have to see mold in order for it to be affecting your health because sometimes it can be behind drywall, it can be behind appliances that are unmovable, it can be just in a difficult spot. It can be in crawl spaces. Or if you're in an apartment complex, it could be in your neighbor's unit coming through HVAC units into yours. And so I do find that it's one of those things that it takes, I don't know, an extra measure of faith for people to actually connect the dots between what they may or may not be seeing and how they're feeling. So do you always just run tests and find out whether or not these levels are affecting them?
Hmm. So typically, first to set the foundation, it's never just mold, right? I've never had one health participant who just comes with one thing. So before even going into the step of testing, I always run to a very in-depth health history where we
Mm.
basically check a lot of their signs and symptoms, past exposure, dental history, all these things, because all these things are hidden clues what might be going on. And there is an order of operations in place, right? Mold, for example, never comes first. So we first need to really map out what all is going on in the body. And then, yes, I feel it's always very important to also follow up with testing because, for example, when we take the testing of mold, right? I just had the other week a perfect example, which I can share. Mold cannot just come from the apartment. It can also come from food. So I had
Mm.
one test result, which only had the strains from food. So we have to change the diet, right? We really have to see in which levels it is in the body. And then we have to really decide does it come from water damage? So you need to follow up and test your apartment, because the thing with mold is not if it gets you, it's just when it gets you. Some people have a strong immune system and they can hold on for longer. Some people are just wiped out right away, right? And if it comes from the diet, we have to look what you're eating and just have to make the changes, because our bodies, they do have an immune system and defense mechanisms, but they also can only detox so much, right? Like when these levels all come back sky high, that's just not what our bodies are supposed to handle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was my personal story too about mold, although I didn't discover that mold was actually root cause until much later because I had the experience of all these other things popping up, which put me in this place of denial. Like you said, how could I have so many things? How could I go from healthy one day to so sick the next? And I realized that with that defense mechanism down, it's those initial soldiers, they're all like sleeping or they're all gone. And all of a sudden, the castle walls fall down and everything has a party and comes alive in the body. And it's just really amazing, this whole idea of opportunistic infections. They will take the opportunity if it's given to them. And mold absolutely is one of those things that tears the walls down, the initial defenses, and now everything is, having some heyday.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What other kind of testing do you like to run in your practice that you find is most beneficial for people?
Always blood work. And this is where we already touched on it a little bit at the beginning, right? If your doctor is telling you your blood work comes back normal, it doesn't mean a thing, because conventional medicine just uses ranges that are so much more broader. They are based on the people that go to the hospital, which are not a picture of health. So it is rather shocking why we would take this as a standard of how optimal health or good health should be, right? So blood work gives us so much information about inflammation. It has an infection panel, blood sugar imbalances, organ status, right? How your kidneys, mitochondria, liver, how they're all functioning. Because like we've touched on beforehand, when the body is so overburdened with toxins, these natural drainage pathways, they just cannot handle it and they get overburdened. Then in the United States, for sure, the total tox burden, it just tests for mycotoxins, heavy metals, and environmental toxins, because the question we have to ask ourselves is not, are we toxic, but how toxic are we? I have
Mhm.
seen a test coming back, in particular in the United States. We see glyphosate, it's being sprayed in the air. It's on our foods and vegetables. Even people that come to work with me, they are 100% organic. And we have to consider, right? Like if an organic field is next to a conventional field, the rain or the air doesn't say, oh, I'm making stuff here, I'm not raining over. It's just we get the pollution from left and right, and we just need to see what is really in our body. And I also like the environmental toxin part, because that's really where we can make changes right away, right? If you are high on pesticides, then you just need to use the ozone bubbler. If you come back high on phthalates and all these type of skincare cosmetics, you need to make the shift there. So this is really what I like. And then Gutsuma is an amazing test. It's the most comprehensive digestive health test we have on the market. It measures more than 300 microbes. It's the most robust inflammation panel, short chain fatty acid. It looks at your digestion. And the nice thing is, it also tells us, because in your gut is your immune system, right? So this is really what we need to build. So if your immune system is wiped out because you don't have any of the beneficial bacteria, we can just selectively feed them instead of just giving a one-size-fits-all probiotic, which might have the strains you're already abundant in. And for some people, I find hormone testing can be beneficial, although I do believe that hormones are not a root cause, right? Again, we have to dig
Mm.
deep. They are a symptom of a deeper issue, whether they get metabolized in the liver and in the gut. So we have to look what's clogging up these issues, but it can be just like a relief if we address hormones alongside.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, as you're working with clients, do they mostly come to you with weight loss resistance? What would you say your top complaints are in your practice?
Weight loss resistance for sure, fatigue, bloating, gut issues, anxiety, depression, these type of things.
Mhm, mhm. And the main way that you are working with women to help lose this unwanted weight is by detoxifying the body. Is that right?
So a lot of different things, right? There needs to be, first of all, we look at the lifestyle, we look at the diet, and it really needs customized, because I'd say person A maybe needs some fasting, right, to reverse the leptin resistance, the insulin resistance, versus person B cannot handle fasting because the body is so like mast cell activation syndrome, all these things we need to make the body first feel safe. So diet comes in, lifestyle comes in, but for sure detoxifying is a big, big factor. I also just love to implement peptides because they are regenerative and we can just boost the body beyond supplements. Because sometimes I feel when the gut is so compromised, it doesn't really absorb all the nutrients, right? So we just have some tools to work around it, but it's really, really customized and it needs to be um, tailored to the person.
Yeah, I love the whole world of peptides, and
Mhm.
I feel like it's up and coming. I feel like 5, 10 years from now, it's just gonna be just huge. But it feels a little bit daunting even to me right now because there's so many.
Mhm.
How do you decide which one is best for your clients?
Mhm. Two things. So first of all, what is the area of priority? What's going on, right? If it's the immune system, does the immune system still support? Then we need to first lay the foundation. But then also, what is their main goal? So if they really want to lose weight, yes, then we throw in something with growth hormones and stuff like that, that they can just build muscle. In particular, these women that have insulin resistance, leptin resistance, they sometimes need a leg up, right? Like the body, just by like doing the supplements and by maybe walking, it just won't work. You need to have peptides, you need to lift weight, and you need to get your muscles up because your muscles are your glucose sink, right? So it's really depending also again on the lab testing. I do like the ones for immunity a lot because I feel it really helps with muscle activation syndrome, just calming the system down and making it not so reactive. And for the weight loss, definitely GRPHs and GPs.
Amazing. And are they, capsules or injectables or which one?
Yeah.
Okay. And these are peptides that they do at home themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Let's
Hey,
talk about Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I say a lot of peptides may or may have not been banned by the FDA, and this is another whole topic where we can dive into, right? Because they work. The government cannot make money off them. It's something that our body produces naturally. With the peptides, a lot of people got off medications, antidepressants, statins, all these type of things. So we just saw them working, and then they got all of a sudden banned because people get healthy. That's not what we want in the United States.
Right, right. It's not profitable.
Yeah. So, we may or may not use some of those too, and I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. So much is like undercover. Um, okay, let's talk about leptin resistance, blood sugar balancing. Sugar balancing is something that I work on a lot in my practice. I find almost every single woman has some level of insulin resistance. I mean, again, it's like mold. It's a little bit unbelievable. It's like, really, how could I possibly be pre-diabetic when I quote unquote eat healthy and eat right? So it's again another point of education, I think, for most of our clients to help them understand what insulin resistance actually is and how we get there. Most importantly, how we work our way out. And I mean, would you agree with me that it's completely a lifestyle disorder?
Yes, 100%. Like I would say, probably 80 to 90% it's lifestyle disorder. Sometimes things like toxins and pathogens definitely come into play with this one too. But we need to have the holistic picture. Supplements alone will not help to reverse it, in my opinion. I'm totally with you.
No, I completely agree with this. I feel like lifestyle medicine is about 95% of this puzzle here. And it just like hormones, it's an end product of our environment. And so if we can switch up our environment, we can switch up the end product messaging. But without it, I think it's way too hard to work backwards like that. So what are some of the tips that you have for your clients who are trying to reverse insulin resistance?
Yeah, so with insulin resistance, we need to look at the diet first, right? And even people that think they are eating healthy, they just don't. That's
Yeah.
the pure truth. They come to me and they say, I eat so healthy. And then in the beginning, I used to believe it. Now I'm saying, fill out the food journal.
Now prove it.
Exactly. And then I look
That's what
at
I
it.
say. That's how it is in my practice. They say, "Oh, I have perfect blood sugar. I'm fine. I don't have hypoglycemia. I don't have hyperglycemia." I said, "Prove it. Where's the data? Put this sensor on the back of your arm for 14 days." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, maybe I don't have perfect blood sugar."
Mhm. So we need to really look at the diet. Obviously, we need to eat whole foods, right? That means fruit, vegetable, protein, and healthy fat. With
Mhm.
insulin resistance, we definitely want to prioritize proteins, healthy fats, and cut the carbs a little bit down. Also, we want to stick to meal planning, right? Like we eat maybe 6 to 8 hours. We do not need to eat 12 hours. We don't. And then like people are just also always often snacking, right? And then I say, please show me what you're eating. Then it's this protein bar they're eating. But the protein bar is actually not a protein bar. It's a sugar bar, which has
Yeah.
8 grams of protein and 23 grams of carbohydrate. And
Yeah.
but that's made from dates or whatever. No, we have to really look at the sugar. If insulin and leptin are boiling, we need to look at the sugar and at the diet. That's the first part. Intermittent fasting, highly recommended when we
Mhm.
have these overloads. Being sedentary, you need to move your body. 10K steps and really lifting weight because your muscles are your glucose sink. And this is also when some people, right? I have a lot of people that come to me that have been on Ozempic and the doctor just gave it, right? It just handed out like candy without a protocol. So they cramp up the Ozempic, are not hungry anymore. Then the foods that they eat are actually candy, cakes, whatever it is, like chips. And then they are more better metabolically busted. And once they get off, they have lost their muscle. Their metabolism is in the cellar, and now they gain all the weight back. So it's really about food quality, fasting, moving the body, and exercising, I would say. And then
Yeah.
another piece is just about happiness and nature. This is some things that people just very often overlook, but you need to be also happy in life, right? Like if you're not happy, if you don't have purpose in life, um, your cortisol levels will just be all the time up. And cortisol also affects the blood sugar. Just really schedule it in, right? I just had this conversation, this heart to heart with one of my health participants. She has lost a bunch of weight already. And now she's just in this high stress state. And she's also not happy because I talk to my health participants every single day. So I get to really know them on a personal level. They open up to me. And I was just like, you have to really work on your happiness. And she was just breaking down, crying and said, yes, it's true. Like, I'm not happy and I need to make changes. And then, when these things change, all of a sudden the nervous system balances out, the body feels safe. And then all of a sudden more weight gets released, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that is actually how I started, salsa dancing. About a year and a half ago, I had a very good friend who was in the middle of a health crisis and had visited a doctor overseas. And one of the things he said to her was, "You have to do something that makes you happy. You don't have to do it every day, but you have to do it every week. You have to prioritize yourself." This woman was also a fellow homeschool mom. Obviously, as a homeschool mom, you end up giving 24 plus hours, if you had them in the day, to other people. It really is an active service day in and day out. There's no off hours. There's no um, closing up shop because your home is your shop and your children happen to live there. And so it's very labor intensive. And he had said to her, "You need to find something that makes you happy." And she had to think long and hard about that because it does feel frivolous. It feels like, how could that make so much of a difference? And then she remembered how much she loved to dance. And then she thought of me and said, "Well, Tracy's adventurous. She won't say no to me. Let's go take a salsa dancing lesson." And now a year and a half later, we're like completely hooked and try to go salsa dancing, bachata dancing, Latin dancing as often as we can. And I can't say enough about that. Just having an outlet, something that moves your body, something that challenges your mind, something that is connecting with yourself and others in a way that also gets your mind off. If you're in the throes of chronic illness, it's a mental exercise to do something other than think about your symptoms day in and day out.
Mhm.
It can become an obsession.
Absolutely, 100% agreed. And this is also another topic, right? When people identify with the illness,
Yes.
am fat, I have Lyme disease, I am ill. No, you're not. Like, our bodies are just like maybe working to something. They're having a challenge right now. But you are not meant to be sick. You are not meant to be obese. We are not. Like, our bodies are God given, right? Look at 200 years ago, nothing of this existed. We have created something, and the whole lifestyle we are living, right? I go a lot and I travel to Colombia and Costa Rica. And the people there, they just live differently. They don't know it, like being isolated at home, not talking to someone, looking at a screen all day long. No, we are supposed to live in community, to be happy, to be nature. Of course, we have to work or make money, but we really need to have this balance in life that you've been talking about.
Yeah, 100%. Back to the nutrition and the blood sugar balancing. How do you help clients? And maybe this is more female in nature, but with the emotional struggles of not eating the junk food that we all grew up on here in this country.
Mhm.
How do you help women start to crave the fish and vegetables as opposed to a quick, salty, crunchy snack? I feel a lot of times that it's more difficult mentally than
Mhm.
it is physically.
Mhm. See, I don't see that so much because the women that come to me, they typically are super committed and they typically do have good diets already. So they really are on a good track. But I do also have occasionally, like sometimes a person that needs the support with that. And for me, the approach is always one thing at a time, right? You cannot just give someone a meal plan and say, this is now how your new week is going to look like, because this will set us up for failure. We have to take one habit at a time. For example, if someone is on soda, first thing I get them off soda, right? If they drink 3 sodas a day, or yeah, then we just make it 2 and then we make it 1 and then we switch them over to almond tea so that really the soda becomes an occasional thing. And then we look at their breakfast. How does breakfast look like? So now they start preparing breakfast every week together. And they slowly start to like it. Sometimes people, honestly, Tracy, they just don't know how to cook or how to do it,
Yeah.
right? It's just we don't even know how to make fish. And then you just like try to find the easiest thing, right? Like if you are really not into cooking, then just get an air fryer. Easy as that. You can broil,
Mhm.
you can cook in it, you can saute in it. I do have a lot of recipes that I provide them with, and it's really just one thing at a time. And also here testing helps, right? Like when we see, okay, for example, gluten is something that people don't want to give up, right? Because we know that gluten and wheat can cause an addiction, and there are different markers that we can see in the wheat suma that actually affect the opioid receptors. But when then the people see, okay, the gluten actually is in a high severity range. Every single bite that I'm eating, it's harming my body. So this is sometimes where testing comes in, which I don't think is always necessary. Sometimes people just can go on elimination diet. But this is just where you need to show it, right? They need to have just a visible every single bite will harm my body. And then just also making clear this is therapeutic right now, right? Like sometimes we need to eliminate foods because we just need the immune system to calm down. But then just also making very, very clear this is just now a phase, a therapeutic phase. Our bodies are able to handle stressors, right? Like when you have created this lifestyle, we can have 80-20, 70-30, depending on which phase of life we are in. And it's just like much more enjoyable. And most of the people really, when they eat better, they just feel so much better. And it's like a no-brainer, right?
And then it's a domino effect of continuing to eat that way so that you continue to feel better. Yeah. No, 100%. Do you have a typical timeline for when a woman comes to you? How long until they begin to feel better and see some measurable changes in their health or their weight?
Mhm. So it's also always depending on the person. So sometimes we have these big breakthroughs right in the beginning because, for example, if drainage is overburdened, because we have to put a touch on this first. So in functional medicine, we have this order of operations. That means there is an order where we need to run through. So if someone has Lyme disease and someone has mold, we cannot address it in the beginning because we need to set the foundation with drainage, with pathogens, with gut issues. And then we can go into these deeper rooted issues like mold, Lyme, and heavy metals. So if someone has mold, Lyme, and heavy metals, then it is only later on. So for example, I had Sarah as an example. So she was in the first 6 months not seeing one single pound of weight gain, not one. And that was her main. She did have a lot of other things reversed, like gut issues, fatigue, but she came because of the weight and she didn't have a pound lost. And after the 6 months, she said, okay, I'm going to renew another contract with you. Like I'm continuing to work with you. And just after the 6 months mark, now she's 20 pounds down. We have another 10 pounds to go. So this is sometimes where you just need to have faith and trust the process. And then we have people like Brittany, like her main issue were drainage pathways. She was a health participant of mine. She had worked with the most renowned mold and Lyme doctors in New York. For 8 to 10 years, she just kept gaining 800 calorie diets, water fasting, juice fasting, vegan protein shakes only. She has done everything to lose the weight. And within 1 month, her pants started to fall up. She said, Shalin, she sent me pictures. She says, lumps and bumps are dissolving from my body because drainage was just clogged, right? And we basically just opened it up and the toxins just flooded out. And this is what's happening to her. So I definitely, depending on where you're at, you really need to give your body, I would say, 6 months time to really see changes. And if you are a candidate for Lyme disease, it's more like the 8-month mark, depending if you how well you tolerate your supplements. I always like to go more aggressive if people can handle it, because that way we just finish fast. And I want to have quick wins with my health participants. But yeah, I would say 3 months for sure, you will see something if it's pathogens, foundational issues. And then with the mold, with the Lyme, people typically feel better, but sometimes the weight can also only happen in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and so on.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, it's completely about where people are at and what they have done before they have come to you.
Mhm.
So it sounds like people come to you after they have seen quite a few other providers.
Yeah, I don't know how that actually got established, but this is really what I'm hearing through and through. 5 to 10 doctors. I've been struggling for 5 to 10 years. It's never really, I think I never got one person who said I never worked with someone. You're like my number one. But it's also nice because, to be very honest with you, Tracy, like the people that I get, they typically don't have any hope anymore. And they're very reluctant. Should I work with her? Should I not work with her? You know me, I'm never like a person who's pressuring it. As I always say, like, this is up to you, right? Like, you must be comfortable with your decision. You're welcome to work with me, but I'm not someone who's salesy or pushy or whatever. And then when they do decide and we get these breakthroughs, it's just so rewarding because me and my health participants, we have such a close relationship. Like it's even weird for me to say they're clients because we're just very, very close. We talk every day and we just celebrate together. And when you get these wins from people, like for example, I had Michelle, right? Like when she came to me, also seen so many doctors. She said, my main goal is actually like I think, a 3-year-old son, and I cannot even go with him for walks because she had Lyme disease. She was bedridden. She was in pain. She says, our only thing I can give him is a tablet. I am being eaten alive by guilt. Within 6 months, daily walks, conquering the paddleboard. So it is possible. And you know how thankful they are. It's just the biggest gift that I can get as a practitioner.
Oh, I completely agree. It's like literally the best thing in the world.
Mhm.
Yeah. I remember when I was in the middle of my journey, I remember thinking if I ever make it to the other side of this, then I have to spend the rest of my life helping women get well because it is just gut wrenching to feel so miserable day after day without any hope that you'll ever get better. But there's answers out there.
There are. And this is the thing, right? Never take the excuse or the advice of a doctor who says, like, there is no answer out there. This is just how your body is supposed to be. Keep looking. Whoever is struggling right now, listening, keep looking. Symptoms and weight are the body's way of knocking on your door and just saying, hey, look at me. There is something off. I want to show it to you. This is the mechanism, what the body is doing. And we just need to play detective. That's what it comes down to, right? We need to look what's going on. I always say there are two things, right? Either something is in the body that doesn't belong there, or there is something missing. And we just need to figure these things out and like plug it all together. And then basically the body comes back to where it's supposed to be.
Exactly. It's all about that balance.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, tell me, what is one thing that you do to support your health every single day?
Yeah, for me, it's been very important because it has been one of my stressors, right? Like a little bit of anxiety. Sometimes life can, or like responsibility can just get a little bit much. And what I've really seen, what works for me best is just getting every single morning out, put my bare feet into the sand and just watch the sunrise. Like my nervous system calms down. And this has just also really helped me to work on my anxiety to sleep through the night. I mean, these two things come together when your morning is great and you're sleeping through the night. This has just made me really where I'm at today. Very
I
simple.
love I love that. I always say that a good night's sleep starts the minute you wake up. So those two go together. It's those morning practices that help with the sleep at night. 100%. Well, why don't you tell my listeners how they can find you?
Yeah, so I share a lot of free content on my Instagram page. It's shalin.dominique. I also have a website, shalindominique.com. This is where you find a lot of articles on different root causes where you can just browse through and see, okay, maybe I have mold, and everything will be listed and just get maybe an idea what might be going on with your body. But these are the two main platforms where you can find me.
Amazing. Well, I am enthralled with the work that you do with you as a person, and I can't wait to see you in 2 weeks. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you for sharing your practice and your health participants' personal stories. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It is. It really is.
Thank you for joining me today on Tracy Aaron Talks. I hope you found today's episode enriching to your life. If you enjoyed today's content, would you consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving a review? That simple act helps this podcast get into the hands and ears of many more women just like you. Remember, anything you want and do not yet have will require a new set of beliefs, thoughts, actions, and a new you. I am honored to be on this journey with you as we wholeheartedly pursue true health and wellness in mind, body, and soul.